Good evening everybody and welcome to another beer review. Tonight's merry festivities are going to be centred around a beer from a local brewery to me, York Brewery, and this is the Ghost Ale, or Centurions Ghost Ale I should say, Centurions Ghost Ale. This one, I believe, and I think it says in the back as well, yeah it is, it's about a ghost story in York. York is full of ghosts. There's a really couple of good ghost tours I go around and tell you all about them. So if you're in York and you're around for an evening, go do one of the ghost walks. York has a lot of history. It's an ancient Viking settlement that became a city and was also taken over by the Romans. Loads of history around it. And so the Centurions Ghost Ale is based around one of the stories that a guy was once wandering around streets of York and saw a whole Roman legion marching down the wall in the middle of the streets. The only problem was this legion were marching 6 feet lower. I think it's 6 feet. It says on the back here actually. Sorry, 6 inches low into the ground, because the old Roman road is actually 6 inches below the current street level, so they kind of had no feet. So there's this ghostly centurions marching along with no feet through the middle of the ground. A little bit of history behind the beer. All the beers are kind of named after little bits and bobs. There's Yorkshire Terrier, which is one of the bitters, obviously Yorkshire Terrier being a breed of dog from Yorkshire and all so on and so forth. These beers are brewed within the city confines of the walls. York is a walled city. Oh god, not getting off. It's a walled city, so it has the old battlements, the old walls still going around it, and this is brewed within the city walls. Adds a little bit of history to it as well. This one in particular is a dark and full-bodied ale, so I'm expecting some kind of roasted malt or something like that in it to give it a bit more body and flavour. Got a just nice simple pint glass here. Let's pour it on out. There we go. No, there's quite a lot of head there actually. Quite a lot of carbonation for the beer, a lot more than I was expecting, I must say. 3-ish fingers, we say. A nice deep dark rich body, but it is I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera. It is kind of, you get the red tinges of light coming through, so it's not completely pitch black and not as foggy as that. And a tan coloured head, which is quickly dissipating, I must say. It's all pock marks and digging down inside the middle there. So let's give it a nose, give it a smell. Right off the bat, I can smell kind of roast and toasted notes. Predominantly kind of smoky flavour coming through with it. A tiny little hint of darkish, kind of bittery chocolate coming through. Very predominant overtones of smoke though. Or kind of roasted and smoky, kind of char-grilled meaty smells. I always call it smoky bacon, but I think it smells like smoky bacon in the best possible way. Very pleasant, very pleasant. There is a little kind of twinge of fruit on the back end, so it could possibly be hops coming through, but mainly that roasted sweetness, kind of sweet roasted char-grilled meat, smoky bacon flavours. Okay, without further ado, let's get our tongues into this one. So chin up for York Brewery's Centurions Ghost Ale. Cheers. Yeah, the flavours that are coming through are also those roasted notes, those roasted and kind of smoky flavours, and that seems to be like the mainstay body of this beer. What is quite interesting is the bitterness is almost a forefront to it. The first kind of second it touches your tongue, you get this nice pleasant level of bitterness. That lasts throughout the entire beer and kind of stays the same level of bitterness all the way through and even into the aftertaste. And I quite like it. The carbonation mouthfeel, it's bordering on being quite a thick mouthfeel, just kind of holding a little bit back to being medium bodied. But it's nice and thick. Carbonation is very sprightly on the tongue, quite aggressive, and that bitterness too. So the initial mouthfeel you get is this kind of, the initial flavour even is this bitterness, and mixed in with a thick mouthfeel and this aggressive carbonation, which is quite nice, and then it kind of opens up into these roasted notes. And that smoky bacon flavour kind of just simmers through the back end of the beer and gradually becomes a bit more chocolatey towards the end. But that also leads me to the only thing that I can get in at the back end of the beer is this weird texture in the mouth almost. it's not kind of like the hop oil resiny flavours that you usually get that kind of coat the mouth and give that prolonged bitterness. It's almost, and it is something I've noticed before in the beers, it's almost a diacetyl flavour, but it's not, at the same time, it's not distinct enough. Diacetyl, for those who don't know, is this kind of buttery flavour. It's a bit of a byproduct of sometimes when it happens when brewing. It's not as unpleasant though, but it's this mouthfeel feeling. It's not as unusual as a diacetyl flavour, although I have had that in Yorkshire Terrier before from York Brewery. But it's got the lingering aftertaste is this bitterness and this thick kind of hoppy oily kind of mouthfeel. Which is not entirely unpleasant, but it's a bit unusual and unexpected, I must say. But I like this kind of graduated. The bitterness is kind of nice and powerful, nice and strong, and lasts throughout the entire beer. And also this kind of nice, rich chocolatiness and roasted and bacony flavours go through as well. It's extremely pleasant. I really do quite like this, actually, more than I thought I would. Just because I'm usually a bit more of a fan of hoppy beers, but this is actually proven to be quite a success story for me. Actually, I do quite like this. I keep forgetting to mention it. I always do, but it's 5.4. Oops, easy, holding a bit wrong. It's 5.4 on the Richter scale. So it is kind of bordering on the slightly stronger side. So that kind of slightly unusual aftertaste could be just a little bit of alcoholic kick them through, which again is not entirely unwanted or unpleasant. That's fine. But yeah, for a very malt forward beer, I'm liking the direction it's going. I'm liking this kind of layered complexity of malt flavours, and this I really do quite enjoy this strong bitter undertaste as well going through it. The only thing is that lingering stickiness on the mouth doesn't feel right for me. Doesn't feel right. Having said that, it's still a pretty strong beer. I'd probably give it a I think I'm going to give it a good 7, a nice 7 out of 10, because it's just tiny little something about it. It would probably be more like an 8 for me if this mouth taste was just slightly different towards the end. But it's got nice roast and toasty malty flavours. It's strong in that regard. The bitterness is very nice and pleasant throughout it. And it's not particularly hugely complex. It's never going to have the layers and depth of flavour as some of the beer styles are going to have, just because they simply have more ingredients or anything like that. But for a nice, strong dark ale, this is a very nice one. And it's pleasant, and I'm going to enjoy the bottle very much. And if you ever find yourselves near or around York, make sure you go check York Brewery out. They do have tours around, and they are in the centre of York, and the bottles are available pretty much everywhere. I'm sure of that. Definitely in Yorkshire, at least. So give them a try and see what you think. And that's been another Bear Beer review. So like, favourite, comment, subscribe, all of the above and all that funky jazz. I shall catch you again on the next review. Thank you.